Today we are building an HTML5 video player. If you've ever tried to style the default video player, you'll know that it's really not all that possible. If I take a look at what the video player looks like by default, this is currently what it looks like in Chrome, but that changes sometimes, as well as it's different from browser to browser. So this is what it looks like. You get some basic controls. You got to be able to scrub the video. You can change the volume and full screen it, and as well as the other couple other things that happen. Now, what we want to build is this totally custom interface where we're going to hide the controls and we're going to build our own interface with a button to pause and play it. There's going to be a button that this does the volume, a slider. This is going to speed it right up so it goes much faster. It's going to bring it right down to be nice and slow. As well as we're going to have these nice little skip buttons that allow you to skip forward 25 seconds, skip back 10 seconds. And finally, when you click the video itself, it will pause and play. So there's a whole lot going on here. And at any time during this tutorial, what I want you to do is just pause the video and try to maybe tear off just doing the sliders or just doing the scrubber or just doing the skip buttons and see if you can just get a couple of features on your own and then come on back and join me for the parts that you're having trouble with. So I've already done some CSS for you, and there's really not all that much going on here. It's just going to be, it's got to take my, the autoplay is annoying you. You take this little off. What was I saying? I've done some okay. I've done some CSS. Sorry, this hilarious bunny is getting me. The CSS has been done for you, but there's really not all that much here. It's just a bunch of divs, and then when you hover over it, I just transition the position of that div up and down, depending on where we're at. What we have here is we've got a div with a class of player. This is the video element that we're working with. And then everything below it is just HTML that we've built for the controls. So we've got a progress bar here. Inside of that, we have a filled. I've got a player button here that we're going to pause and play. There's an input for the slider, which has a min, a max, and a step, which is how much it's going to increment each notch on the slider. Same for playback rate. And then I have these skip buttons. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I chose to use data skip in just a second. So this one's pretty big, so I'm not just going to stick it in a script tag here. We're actually going to put it in a separate scripts.js file that we're going to be working in here. So let's get going. First thing that we need to know is there's going to be pretty much three pieces of this. First, we're going to get our elements, and then we are going to build our functions, and then we are going to hook up the event listeners. So let's start with getting our elements on the page. There's a whole bunch that we need here. We're going to first get the player. So const player equals document dot query selector dot player. And then inside of that player, because that's sort of like the Papa div here, inside of that is we're going to grab everything else. So we need the video itself. And we're going to call player.query selector. And inside of that, we'll look for the .viewer, because that's the class that that video has right there. Okay, working good so far. Other things we need is the progress bar, the progress filled, the toggle, the skip buttons, and the player slider. So I'm just going to blow these out real quick. Otherwise, you can just grab them from the answer. I'm sure you understand what's going on here. We're just selecting elements from the page. If you'd like to see me type them, I'm sorry, but we've got them going right here. So we've got our progress bar, and I'll explain exactly what all of these are. Next, what we want to do, let's just start easy and work with the toggle play. So we're going to have a function called toggle play. And when that is called, we are going to either call .play on the video or .pause. So what we can do is we'll say if video.paused, because paused is a property that lives on the video. There is no playing property. There's only a paused property. And we will say video.play else video.pause. Good. So now if we open up our DevTools here and call toggle play, you'll see that it starts to play. If I call it again, it's going to pause it. One little thing that you could do here is you could say const method equals and use a ternary operator. I don't know how to say things. Play, otherwise pause, and then because the method name is in a string here, we can simply just call video, access the method name, and then immediately call it. Some people don't like that because they find it hard to read. Don't send me angry mail. Just don't use it if you don't like it. But that is sort of a way. You could even just put this sucker right inside of here if you want it to get really crazy, but we're not dipping down there. Let's just double check that this still works. Working good for me. Okay. So that's our toggle play. Now what we need to do is hook it up both to when you click the video as well as when you click this button. So first we're going to go down to our hook up our event listeners, and we'll say video.add event listener, click. And when that happens, we are going to run toggle play. Good. Now let's try it out. Click, it's going. Click it again, it pauses, on and off. Good. Next, we want to hook up this button right here. So what did we call that button? That is the toggle button. So say video, or we can pretty much just duplicate that line and switch out the toggle, add event listener, click, toggle play. There we go. It's working for us. You'll notice that this button here isn't changing. And for that, we need to update the actual text of this button inside of here. So one way that we can do that, and you might think, okay, we'll do that in here where we'll get the button and we'll say .text content equals and figure out whatever the play button is. But the better way to do that, because there are other ways that you could pause a video other than clicking on the video and toggling it. Sometimes people have plugins. Sometimes people have, like, maybe you want to pause a video if a pop-up opens. So rather than hook into this toggle play function, what we want to do is listen to the video for whenever it is paused. So whatever causes it to pause, then we can just update the actual buttons right here. So what we could do is we will go to our video, and I'm going to group these together. Video.addEventListener, and we're going to listen for play. And when that runs, we are going to make a function called update button, and console log update the button. We'll just say that. So take that update button. When the video is played, run update button, and when the video is paused, or pause is the event, sort of like click, it will also run. So now, if I click it, see what's going on here? Every time I click it, it's going to trigger a play or a pause event, which will in turn run our update button function. So if we go inside of our update button function, we will say const icon equals, and we simply say this dot pause. And why can we use this in this case? Because it's bound to the video itself. This dot pause, if that is true, then we will put the play button in there. Otherwise, we will put the pause icon. If you need to grab these icons, you just grab them from the answer file. And then we take that icon and we say toggle. What's toggle? Well, if we go up here, toggle is our toggle button, which is this button right here, has a class of toggle. Good. So we'll say toggle.textContent equals icon. Or again, yes, you could take this and just slap it right inside of there. I'm just going to do it in 2 steps. And that should be it. Uh-oh, error on line 17. What did I do? I got 2 question marks. What a silly thing to do. Here we go. Oh, doesn't seem to be working. Let's debug this real quick. Console log, it ran. Okay, it's running. Now let's console log the icon. You know what? There's no property called pause. It's pause. Duh. There we go. Now it's up and running. It's working. And then if I click this button itself, it will also, but if I also just call it from the console, video, or is it viewer? No, I think it's video, which is a video. And if I just call video.play on it, it's going to start playing. But look, haha, it's worked. If I call it again or call.pause, it's updated the button for us. So you see how we didn't have to hook into this function. We simply just listened for the event. Good. What should we do next here? We got the play button working. Let's do these skip buttons here. So we're going to make a function called skip. And what we then need to do is understand how much it's going to be skipped. The way that I like to define how much the video is going to be skipped is to go to the actual DOM element, and let's look at these skip buttons that we have here. And they have a data dash skip -10, which means it's going to go back 10 seconds, and a data skip of 25, which means it's going to go forward 25 seconds. And I really like this approach because that means I can put a data dash skip on absolutely anything. It could be a picture of myself, and when you click my face, it will skip to the end because you don't want to see it at all. So we can put a data dash skip on absolutely anything, and that's the way that it's going to work. So before we run the skip, let's just console log skipping. And we'll hold down here and we'll listen for a click on anything that has a data dash skip. Now let's look at the top here. Skip buttons is equal to anything that has a data dash skip attribute, which is why I said you could put a data dash skip on absolutely any element. So we'll say skip buttons for each button, button.add event listener, and we are going to be listening for a click. And when that happens, we are going to run the skip function. Good. Let's try it out. Skipping, skipping, skipping. Now, what's cool about that is instead of console logging skipping, let's console log this.dataset and see what we have there is we get an object which has that skip value in it. So we can take that this.dataset.skip and we say video dot current time plus equals this.dataset.skip. Now that's a string, so we should wrap that in a parse float, and that will convert it into a true number. And now if we play it and click our skip button, it'll jump back and forward, back and forward. Next, let's work with these range sliders here. If you take a look, we have an input type of range. The name is volume. And then we have another one where the name is playback rate. And I've purposely done that with volume and playback rate just so that they line up with the properties on the actual video. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to listen for a change on those specific sliders. So we're going to make a function called handle range update. We're just going to console log this dot value. And then we're going to go down here and listen for a change event on each of those ranges. So say ranges dot for each range, and then the range dot add event listener click is going to run the function handle range update. So, not click, change event. So give it a refresh. Now if I change one of these, 0.035, change one of these, 1.175, 1.5, 1.3. Another thing we could do is we could just duplicate this and listen for a mouse move event, and that will fire. This will fire regardless of if you're clicking or not, but what you can, if you want to have a little bit more practice, is go back and set a flag so that when you click down and move it, much like we did with the canvas, and click up, you are only updating the property when you are clicked down. But for that, we've got it updating in real time rather than just when we let go of the button. So we have this.value, and we could also console log this.name. And coincidentally, volume and playback rate are the two properties on the video that we need to update. So we simply just need to say video, And the property you want to update is called this.name, which is either going to be volume or playback rate. So we'll say this.name is equal to this.value because that's the value that's already being piped in. So now if we go ahead and play it, there the volume's right down all the way up, goes super fast, super slow. You get the point, right? That one's a pretty simple one. I'm going to remove those console logs as well as this console log here. Next up, let's deal with the big one, which is this progress bar here. So first of all, when you play the video, the progress bar should be updating in real time. Let's do that first. And then second of all, when you click on it and drag, it should update the video to correspond with that place. So first, we're going to make a function called handle progress. And we are going to make a percentage because essentially how it's going to work is we're going to go in there, we're going to inspect this progress field here, and you see how we have a flex basis value? We're just going to be updating that flex basis value of sort of like updating the width of the progress bar, and it's just going to correspond with how long it is. So if we have 0% being not started at all, 100% being totally finished, we simply just need to calculate that knowing how long is the video and how far are we right now. So const percent equals, let's say, video.current time divided by video.duration. Current time and duration are just properties on that video, and we multiply it by 100, so we're getting a not 0.5, but 50%. And then we simply take the progress bar, which we've selected at the top here, progress bar, and we append the styles. .style.flex basis equals, and we simply pop in the percent variable and put a percent sign on the end there. So that doesn't work just yet, and why not? It's because we've created the progress, and if I were to run it manually, it would update itself, but we want it to run every so often. So should we put that in like a timeout or a interval and run it every second? No, what we'll do is we will listen for the video to emit an event called time update. And when that happens, we will run handle progress. So you just duplicate one of these, video, add event listener. We're going to listen for the time update event, and we're going to run handle progress when that happens. There's also an event called progress, and I don't know the difference between the two. I've looked and I don't really understand. But as far as I've tested, both progress and time update will just trigger when the video is updating its time code. And then if it's paused, it's not going to be unnecessarily running that function. So now we'll give it a play. And it seems to be working just fine. If I use these skip buttons to skip ahead, you'll notice that it updates itself nicely as well. Finally, the big one that we want here is the scrub. And how this is going to work is we are going to listen for a click on this video bar here. And wherever I have clicked, let's say I click right here, it's going to say like you've clicked, how wide is this bar here? 640 pixels. So like, let's say I click at 320 pixels in. We know that 320 pixels is halfway to 640. So I should scrub the video 50% or 50% of its duration. So we're going to make a function called scrub here. And when that happens, we're going to get the event. Let's just console log the event here. And we'll go down to the bottom here. And we will get our progress bar. We are going to listen for a click. And when that happens, we are going to run scrub. So let's see how we're doing here. Open up your console. Play it. Now click somewhere on. I'm going to click about halfway. Okay, now we got this mouse event. And inside the mouse event, we are going to see that we have e.offsetx, which is exactly what we used in the Canvas tutorial. So here it is. It tells me I clicked 283 pixels into this bar because that bar is positioned relative. So given that knowledge, we can do a little bit of math. So we'll say const scrub time equals e.offsetx. Gotta pause these bunnies here. Hold on. Divided by And now we have to figure out what is the width of this entire progress bar. Well, we've already selected it into a variable called progress, and we can grab the width of it with offset width. That'll give us the entire width of the bar. And that gives us like a percentage, like 50.5 or zero point 0.6 for 60%. And we simply just multiply that by the video's duration. So if it's a 60-second clip, you're halfway through, it's going to tell us that you should scrub to 30 seconds. And then we simply just update the video. Video.current time equals scrub time. Let's see where we're at now. So if I play it and I click about halfway, it jumps exactly to where I've tried to click it. Good. Now let's work on the actual dragging and dropping of it, because you don't want to just listen for when someone moves it. You want to listen for when someone clicks and moves it all around. So let's just do it where you mouse move over top of it. So we'll take progress.add event listener, and we are going to listen for a mouse move, and we're just going to scrub it there without thinking about clicking just yet. So play it. Watch. As I move it's a little bit jerky because it's just firing like a million times and the video can't really keep up. But when I move my cursor anywhere, it just catches up. Now that's not really all that great, and because I want to be clicking down. And what did we do in the canvas example? We created a flag variable, set it to false, and then when you clicked, we set it to true. So this is what we do. We say let mouse down equals false. What is the person currently clicking or has their mouse down? No, that is false. And then when someone mouses down, we'll set it to true. So say progress.add event listener, mouse down. And when that happens, we will run mouse down is equal to true. Then when someone mouses up, we will make the mouse down equal to false. And then the scrub, when someone moves their mouse, what we want to do essentially is we would run a function here that says if mouse down, then we want to scrub, right? However, we can do it a little bit easier, and I'll show you a little trick here. We'll run a function just inline here, and we'll say mouse down and scrub, and we'll pass it the event. So we need to pass the event here. Now, whoa, hold on. What did we just do here? When someone moves their mouse, we say mouse down and scrub. And what this does is it first checks this variable. And if this variable is true, it moves on to this. If this variable is false, it's just going to return false, and it's not going to do anything. So we're sort of hijacking the fact that we can use and if this is true, it will move on to running the scrub. If this is false, it's not going to run the scrub. And then because our scrub function requires the initial event of when this happened on mouse move, we need to pass it in this arrow function and then just sort of like hot potato it over to our scrub function here. So now if we play it and see, I'm moving my cursor over top, no problem. But if I click and drag, you'll see it is updating all that time. Looking good. Awesome. So that is the very basics of a video player. It's not really all that basic. We've got a lot here. The one thing that we did not do, and this is my challenge to you, is try to figure out how to make the full screen button work. So add another button here, and they should nicely work out. I've used Flexbox here. So if you add another button, it'll just shift on over. And when you click that button, make the video go full screen. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow.